What was your role were you the oldest of the bottom three?
I was the oldest of the bottom three, the oldest and the bossiest of the bottom
And were
three.
you like the family comedian? Were you the caretaker? Like, what was your role in the house?
Literally just bossy. I wasn't the funniest one.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Street You Grew Up On. Today, we are talking to an incredibly talented and beautiful and smart and hilarious human being. She is a fantastic actress and producer and the creator of one of my favorite shows of all time, Insecure. We are welcoming Issa Rae. Wow. Okay, I'm so excited to be here to talk to one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Issa Rae. Thank you for joining us on Street You Grew Up On.
Thank you for having me, Faye. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so what was the name of the street that you grew up on? Tell us the city, the state, but the actual name of the street.
The street that I am claiming is Mount Vernon Drive in View Park, Los Angeles, California.
Okay. And what was that street like? Who lived on that street? What was the neighborhood like?
View Park is one of the most prominent Black American neighborhoods in the
In
world, I guess.
anywhere.
Yes, basically. And it's made up of middle to upper middle class Black people, and it is just a family oriented neighborhood. I grew up across from like a walking park, and so
Mm.
people would walk their dogs there, jog, get their workouts on, and it was just the most beautiful, picturesque neighborhood.
Did you know that you were growing up in like a pretty fancy hood? Like, did you know that you were upper middle class as a kid?
I didn't feel that way. Everybody else felt, because we weren't yet. We were catching up. So my mom
Ah.
and dad like scraped up everything to get the house. Because my
Mm.
mom really wanted to live in that neighborhood. We grew up. I was actually born there, and then we spent time away from LA. We moved to Senegal, where my mom thought she was done with LA because there was hella gang violence down the street. It
Oh.
was just like she had two young Black sons and a daughter, and she was just like, I don't want this for my family. And so my dad was trying to build a hospital in Senegal, and then basically the government fucked him and he lost all his money. And so they had an opportunity to move back to LA, and my dad was like, well, I'm gonna go there and like try to start over. But my I have a friend who lives in Maryland, and you can stay there until I get myself back together, and I'll bring you back to LA. People to me had money there in a
Yeah.
way that I had not seen. But we did not have money. We were renting houses, and we had to move every 2 years. And so those were not Black neighborhoods.
Huh.
And so by the time I got to LA, that felt like, oh my gosh, I'm in a neighborhood where Black people feel fancy and have money,
Yes.
and it's such a different environment. And I still don't feel like, I'm on their level or my family is on their level, but it's so cool to be in this neighborhood, in this company with such a supportive community.
Yeah. Was a lot of Black professionals on your street?
A lot of Black professionals, but then just a lot of Black kids. It was so
Mm.
easy. Like my first best friend that I met that I actually just reunited with a couple years ago was lived down the street, and she was the one who gave me the ins about LA. Like, this is what you got to do, this is what you can't wear, you got to dress better. And we went to the same sixth grade, and she really was like, I clung to her for my cool
Mm.
point. But that was like, we were just hanging out, was just walking around the neighborhood and seeing who we'd run into and riding our bikes and stuff.
What
It
were
was
the
just
sounds on the street? Like what were the smells? What were the sounds? What was the food like in your neighborhood?
um the sounds were, kids outside. Again, we
Mm.
lived across from a walking park, so there would always be cars pulling up to park in front of our houses. It was super close.
Ah.
Sometimes it would smell like weed at night, because that was also the little the teen
The spot.
picnic spot. Yes, the spot. And my mom did not like that.
Mm.
And it was just yeah, you just always heard snippets of people's gossipy conversations.
Mm. So were you observing a lot in that park across the street?
I was always making false promises to myself, even then, about like working out. I'm like, I should exercise more. And it was right across the street. And I kid you not, like the 15 years that we lived there, I probably went like 4 times. And now I go more because I live in the neighborhood now. I go way more. But it's a very unique area.
Who lived in your house? Who lived in the house? Was it your brothers, your mom, and your dad when you're in that period?
My brothers had graduated high school by that point. So they graduated high
Are you
school
the
in Maryland.
youngest?
I'm the middle child, so I have
Okay.
two below me. So
Okay.
we call ourselves the bottom three. And so the bottom three lived in that house. And my parents, yeah,
Okay.
the bottom
And were
three.
you like the family comedian? Were you the caretaker? Like, what was your role in the house?
Literally just bossy. I wasn't the funniest one. um, my family is so funny. And like I crack jokes, but I just think that everybody else is so funny. I guess I was the responsible one, the
Mm.
snitch, the
The
one who was like,
snitch.
I was just overly protective. I was a hater. Like my brother and sister they have so many stories. And then I flip, but I think because my older brother was such a jerk to me, he was like I felt like I had to transfer that energy to them, and they didn't deserve it. They were all they wanted to do was be my friends, and I was like, no, I'm aligning myself with mom, and I'm bossing it all around. So yeah, that was I don't know if that's a role, but hater was my role.
Hater. But do you think there's some of that, like stepping into authority or into power that you kept with you in your career, that's like part of how you walk in the business? Because you can be a
Wow.
little bit bossy on set, just a little bit. I wouldn't say you ever
Oh,
snitched
really?
on this director, but
Okay. Maybe I love that. I love that interpretation of it, and I will probably use that. But no, I do think some of that prepared me. I think I
yeah.
never looked at it that way, but maybe I was just, a burgeoning leader.
Yes, exactly. Tell me about music in your house, in on the street you grew up on. What was the music? Was there a lot of music in your home?
There was a lot of music in our home because I don't know if y'all had this too, but I feel like it was in every black household. It was like Saturday chores, and Saturday
Yes.
chores would be divided between the bottom three siblings, and I would always finesse and be like, "I got vacuuming," or whatever wasn't dishes, whatever wasn't cleaning the bathroom. I clean the bathrooms the best. But that like there would be a soundtrack associated with that, and the way that I could get my mom off of our backs in some ways was by playing the music that she loved. And when we had like Napster and
Mm.
whatever LimeWire and all that,
Oh
like I
my
could
goodness.
download all music. So I would be playing a playlist in the house, and it would make the chores enjoyable, and it would make it like, because that was the worst thing. You finish 5 days of school, and then you have to wake up
Yeah.
Saturday morning instead of having time to yourself to like clean the fucking house, which sounds so spoiled because it wasn't my house and whatever. But like that made it fun. And my mom's music taste really, really influenced all of us. Like from the Anita Bakers, Stevie Wonders, and Luther, all that. Like that became our soundtrack.
Did both of your parents work?
Yeah, my mom was a teacher,
Hmm.
and I felt bad for my little brother and sister. She taught at their elementary school for a
Oh
minute,
no.
and then she taught then she left and taught at a high school, Washington Prep. And my dad had a family practice in Inglewood.
So would you say, I mean, is it fair to say that the street you grew up on was a big inspiration for the show, for Insecure?
Hands down, I
Yeah.
wanted to represent, and I did represent that neighborhood. I told the story of that neighborhood and my parents and all of that, even season 3. But absolutely, like that street represents so much of what I make, what I'm going to make. It was highly influential.
When did you realize that you wanted to do something creative with your life?
Uh, Very young age, telling stories. I think part of
Really?
that started, yeah, with seeing my oldest brother, who's not a writer or anything now, but is a great storyteller. I think we all
Mm-hmm.
have like members of our family who are like, you
Yeah.
tell such good stories. Like I'm hanging on to every word.
Yes.
Um, I remember seeing he won in middle school this writing competition, and I remember seeing that he just bound this book, like he bound it himself. And it was like bootleg, but I was like, it's so cool. My brother wrote a book. I don't want to do that. You can just make books. And so I would write short stories. I think that was my first memory of trying to emulate him
Mm,
and then just really liking it. And then that progressed into making plays at our church. Like the first thing I ever
mm.
put up was a play at church when I was in sixth grade called The Old and the Rested, about like the old members of our church. And, it got laughs. And my reverend was like, super complimentary, like, you should do this. This is good. And so
Wow.
that was like the start of the encouragement for me.
Do you do you think it was lucky also that you were or blessed or whatever you want to say that you were in LA so there wasn't a sense that you had to like go somewhere else to do what you wanted to do? Did you have this sense of Hollywood being like this other thing, this other place you had to go, or were you like I'm just going to be where I am and live my life and Hollywood will come to me?
I mean, part of the latter, but Hollywood always felt still, even in LA, except for moving there from Maryland. When I moved there from Maryland, it was like, oh, I'm in the place where all my favorite TV shows are made. Like, this feels so
Mm.
accessible. And then growing up and kind of dispelling that of just like, oh, Hollywood is fake, and then feeling like LA is fake. I don't know what it, people talk about LA in a way that I, despite knowing that that wasn't the case, fed into that until I went to college and then came back
Huh.
and just appreciated like, this is the best place ever. And people don't know, and only transplants say that.
Right.
Um, but over time, Hollywood has been its own thing, and then South LA, I've come to realize is its own thing in its own neighborhood, and I think for me, it's always been about distinguishing who's actually from here and who's
Mhm.
not, and
Mhm.
trusting the LA experience of LA natives as opposed to people who push their own narrative about what LA is. Like it really does offend me when people come here from other cities and try to depict it as what it's not. And it's like you're not even in these neighborhoods. You don't come below the 10. You only are in a very specific part and you've decided that that's what it is. So I do get
Mm.
protective about it.
That is it's great. It's also it's like you grew up in the place where people go to make their dreams come true.
True. It's very true. It's a
And you
magical
made your
place.
dream come true. It is. Has there
You have
ever been anywhere else in the world you've wanted to live?
Yes, I'm sure. I mean, I wanted to live in New York. I did live in New York, and it was hard. But I didn't. I knew it was supposed to be hard. They say if you can
Yeah.
make it here, you can make it anywhere, and that's how I felt. Even after I got robbed, I was like, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And then just being broke, not ever being able to like afford a proper coat for the winters, like but I was still like, this is a dream city. And that also made
Yeah.
me have a new appreciation of LA. That New York hustle is unmatched. That East Coast hustle is unmatched. And I would argue that it actually helped me to stand out more when I moved back to LA because it made me not be about
Mm.
that bullshit and those excuses. It was just like, oh, I've seen people grind and I've been grinding out there. So I brought that grinding energy back. And that's when things started to really escalate for me.
Okay, if you could be a mirror bitch to the little girl who was growing up on that street
God.
and coach her, like what would be the advice that you would give to that little one? Other than
I
take more walks in the park.
Yeah, get it together. Stop pump faking. To be honest, so much of my material comes from that little girl in sixth grade who moved back.
Mm.
Like Awkward Black Girl was born out of that, you
Yeah.
know? Moments in Insecure were born out of that. So part of me would be like, you sis, write all this down. It hurts right now. You're coming home crying in the mirror. This is terrible in the moment, but it'll pay off later. So write everything down. I think that's, yeah, and you'll come out of this because there's that feeling when you're younger where you're just like, will this ever end? Is this what my life
Mm,
is gonna be? Am I
mm.
here to endure this? Like, what is this? When will this stop? And I think my mirror bitch would be like, this'll pass. Just
Mm.
stop being so pressed. Stop being so eager. And you'll be all right.
When you were that little girl and frustrated and like crying, were there people you confided in? Were there mentors? Were there teachers? Were there people that helped you make it through all that awkward stuff?
I'm sure there were, but I don't know that I listened to them.
Oh.
But oddly enough, I mean, television was a source of comfort, you know?
Ah.
And I think that, watching certain characters and relating to certain characters and seeing that journey, and I think that's why it mattered so much to me when that was taken away, when that representation was taken away, because I did identify with like the Urkels and the Laura Winslows and the Khadijas and all these and the Freddies and all that, and to be
Yeah.
able to like find solace in these characters, um, it was just, a source of comfort
Mm.
and a source of, oh, it'll be okay. And also like an aspiration, to be like, maybe I'll be doing that one day in some form.
Oh my God. I loved TV so much. I remember my dad used to call me. I was a latchkey kid and he would call me and be like, "Are you watching TV?" And I had just turned it down. I was like, "No, no, I'm not watching TV." And I remember I remember him saying like, "I'm gonna come home and touch the back of the TV to see if it's hot, like to see if it was on." And I would be like, "Oh God." So then I'd have to time it out to be like, how long does it take the TV to cool down? And when is he coming home? Because I
That
loved
is
it as an only
crazy.
child. Isn't that crazy?
Did you have an off the path show that nobody would know that you fuck with, that you like fuck with super hard?
Well, I like way before the Drake version, like I liked Degrassi when it was like all white kids on like weird, awkward Canadian television when nobody else was watching it. Like there was no Drake to
How
be
did you even have
seen.
access to that?
I think it came on PBS, and the one thing my mother would let us watch without any limitations was PBS. Like I always joke, we grew up in the house with those like viewers like you. Like we had the umbrellas, viewers like
Yes,
you, the tote bag viewers like you, because we were one of those viewers like you. Like, and we didn't have a lot of money, but I knew she always sent in her little, $20 a year for NPR and PBS. So it was on PBS. So that's how I found Degrassi, like way before. And my friends were like, "What are you talking about?" That would probably be
oh
the
man.
my most,
Okay.
yeah. What about
I didn't
you?
know it was on that long. I didn't know it preceded Drake at all.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mine was a show called Roswell on
Oh
WB.
yes.
Do you know it?
Of course. Wasn't it like it was about the alien town, right?
Right. Yes, it was like a teen alien show, and like it affected me down to like the theme song. The theme song was just so. It was Dido, and like when I think about that show, it takes me to a very specific, nostalgic, like yearning, longing place. I don't know. It was such a sexy but weird TV show where the
Yeah.
music was just. I know it impacted the what I make right now.
Okay, if you could sort of recreate anything from that time back then and bring it into your life now, anything from those days living with your siblings and your parents on that first street you grew up on, is there anything you'd want to put into your life now?
Is there anything from that time I want to put in my life now?
Or from that house, from that street?
Oh man, we had the best games of My mom is extremely goofy, and as you can tell from the story that I just told, like she makes up a lot of rules and games and things like that, and then cheats at them herself. It was just very, very frustrating to live in a house where she made the rules and was the cheater. But this one game that we used to play as a family at the table was the Don't Laugh and Smile game, and that was like we couldn't turn on the TV. It was just us, and it was just a game of eating and trying to get each other out, which means trying to make each other laugh at the table. And it was just
Wow.
the funniest. I would always be out first again because I think everybody's family is so funny. And so I just watch, my mom and my second oldest brother would always be the last two standing.
Mm.
And that was fun. And I wish we could like bring that energy back to, where I live now. Like I wish we could continue to do that, but we're all in different places and of course different houses, and sometimes one is in different states. So that's my childhood right there.
You know what, Issa? It's crazy though when I hear you say that. It's like you have recreated that though, because that's what it feels like so often on set is like, can you get through the next take and try to be a serious director named Kerry Washington? Or are they gonna break you with every take? So you've brought that into your grown-up life. You really have.
That's incredible.
Because I watch you do that with each other too, right? Like Yvonne is always doing that with you. Like you guys are always pushing each other in that way.
Always. It's so fun. It's fun when you can do that.
So your sexy alter ego name is your first pet and then the street you grew up on. So I need to know. You have to pick one of I know you did a cross street, but pick one of those streets. And what's your first pet?
First pet is technically a dog named Chugabee, which my dad named, which is a Wolof word.
Like Chocobee?
Chugabee. It's like a Wolof word that means bitch. That's what my dad chose.
Okay.
To name this dog that we grew up with, and I didn't know that that's what the name meant until I got older. And the street is Mount Vernon, so Chugabee Mount Vernon.
I like it. I like it. Maybe Chugabee bitch Mount Vernon, right? Like
okay, Chugabee bitch Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
Very fitting.
Okay. I like it. All right. Thank you.
Mwah,
thank you.
Thank you, Kerry.
I love Issa Rae. I just love her. I think she's an amazing human being. I'm so grateful that we got to go to Mount Vernon Drive with her. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for traveling back to that drive and spending some time with her on the street that she grew up on. Please continue to tune in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss any notifications. We have some exciting guests coming up, and we want to hear from you on who else you want to travel with to the street they grew up on. So let us know.